Hello YouTube, so this is Kat from Set Free and Pass, and I'm going to go through my Live Twin Evil Twin deck profile. So today's video is going to be done a little bit differently. I'm going to break into three sections. One, I'm going to go through the deck, so the main deck and then the extra deck. There's going to be no side deck. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have another two sections, which is options, which you can add in, and then go through additionally the weaknesses of the deck and some ways to combat that, which obviously depending on your local meta will hopefully help you make a side deck. So let's go through the deck. So, 3 Live Twin Leela, the most important card in the deck, more so than Keys to Kill, because I feel that if you get the opportunity to get a Live Twin from your deck, this should always be the option, because then you go into Frost, and Frost being the card that lets you draw. So if you do have one of the searchers to get any of them, always go for this one. However, you do need 3 Keys to Kill. Although not as important as Leela, you still need it for all your plays. And then for the extras, I'm going to be running 2 Frosts, which is pretty standard. I've tried with 1 and with 2, and I found the consistency was a bit off. Also, with the amount of drawing that's going on at this moment in time, you find that you get quite a lot of use out of this. You've got to remind yourself it's in your grave. 1 Leela Treat. Don't recall actually using the effect of this in any duels, other than maybe once, but I mean from this special summon point of view it does come in useful at points for just additional link plays. Then you've got the brick of the deck, as everyone calls it. Personally, I've actually been able to summon this and go for game, so a 4400 beat stick. You'd be surprised actually when your opponent's lost half the life points by, say for example, a Solemn Judgment. Going into this can actually win you the game single-handedly, but there again you'd think going into Trouble Sunny would do exactly the same. But I have used this a couple of times, other than its effect, to be able to bring it out. Then I use a Scythe, so it's legal. You can use it in this deck, so I don't see no reason why, and I'll try and go through how I actually do that. As for hand traps, one Nibiru. This will become clear, I'm sure, with my spells shortly. 2 Event Veilers. So I was running as 3, and 2 seems to be the right amount, especially when you've got crossouts and so on, which don't bother. It's one of the reasons I run 1 Nibiru. For just shutting down your opponents, and with so many effects out there which can pretty much screw over you because of the fact this deck is quite fragile, it's great to have that ability to negate. I run 3 Ash Blossoms. However, I'll go through later on. There is another hand trap I'm potentially thinking about using over this, but then again, it's personal preference. And then Infinite Impermanence. What can I say in terms of from a card point of view? It does everything you need to shut down your opponents. Then on to the spells. So I run 2 Triple Tactics. Well, I tend to use this more for the draw ability because you can run out of cards quite there, but ripping cards out your opponent's hands and then taking the monster to be able to link into one of your live twins, actually, or your evil twins, comes in useful. Run 1 Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn is self-explanatory, being able to start your plays again if one of you've got 2 live twins in the grave, get one of them back, be able to go into the other to be able to draw a pop of cards. It's great. Then I run 3 Cross-Out Detonators. I know that since this has come out, it's been a bit of a in and out card, but with this deck, if you get hit by 1 hand trap at the wrong time, you pretty much have no plays. So it's majorly important that you were able to get through your first play without being ashed, because 1 ash could pretty much ruin your day, same as a Veiler. Hence why that. And then Nibiru as well. Nibiru in this deck, if you go into your full link play, you go over 5 summons before you even get to Trouble Sunny, so it's imperative that you have this in your deck usually for this deck. Then I've got a Call by the Grave. Again, if there was more of them, I'd run more. Again, stop hand traps. I run 2 Forbidden Droplets. I do have 3, and I've tried with 3, but in this deck, because of the fact that how quickly you can go through your deck with the additional ability of Evil Twin Keys to Kill, being able to draw a card, and then also Frost being able to draw a card, as well as I mentioned, Triple Tactics, you find you go through your deck quite quickly. So you get to one of these. And also in terms of how you usually use this, is if someone negates your first one, say for example you use your Leela, you then use this, get rid of Leela, because of the fact that you choose the effect, you go into another key to kill, which leaves you the ability to actually go into some play still. Sunny Snitch, well, the rotor of the deck, it's great for starting off, and also the life point burn is also amazing as well. So I've been in many situations before where the opponent has tried to go into Anaconda, for example, and they've put themselves below 2,000 or on 2,000 life points and haven't been able to do anything else, which is quite funny. So yeah, that's great because it has the 2 added effects, and also hopefully if you're going against someone that summons a load of monsters and you get up to the 10,000 life points, it's going to be difficult to get rid of you at that point. And then we have 3 secret passwords. These are very important because of the fact that not only will you go into your Sunny Snitch, you also have the option, if required, to go into the Evil Twin. Plus there is a trap that I'll get into shortly, but it also gets you into that. So it's great in terms of you get this in your first hand, and also home. So as part of the extending, as I mentioned before, you can go into Dagger in this deck, so having something like this to extend to get to that and then make your play is fantastic. As I've said, got 2 homes. So some decks only run 1. I personally think 2. The reason is you want to draw into this card, and also you're going to want to draw into this multiple times. So there's never been a situation where I have felt, when it's been in my opening hand, I've gone, this could have been something else. Because at the end of the day, it helps you go into further plays, and as I'll show you shortly how you go into Dagda, this is ultimately so important to make that happen. And because of the fact I'm going through so many monsters with my live twins themselves, and then also with the evil twins, then going off into the graveyard, I run Pot of Avarice. Now, Pot of Avarice, I know probably isn't the most optimal. So in previous decks, you probably would have seen people using Pot of Desires. Now that's down to 1. I don't want to win the 1. And I find that Pot of Avarice is pretty much guaranteed to be played unless you're in a really, really bad situation anyway. So the advantage you have here is if you're in a grindy, trying to grind out your opponent in a long one of those long games, you're always going to have 5 monsters in your grave. And in fact, you're going to have it where it's going to be a link monsters where you're going to want to use them multiple times. So having this to put them back into your extra deck, or put live twins back into your deck, is so important. And then drawing 2 cards. I mean, what's not slow about that? And then the only other trap other than the imperms is Challenge. Now, why do I use Challenge, you might ask? Well, Challenge is a card which allows you to special summon a live, a Leela or a Kill monster from your graveyard, and then you can basically immediately, after this effect resolves, link summon into another one. So what this allows you to do is bring out either your Leela and your Kill, then hopefully link into another one, which allows you to start your plays again during your opponent's turn. Obviously make sure you use this during the main phase, because the Evil Twins monsters only use their effects during the main phase. But essentially you can do this to go back into another one to get potentially a Kill out, then bring out a Leela, which then allows you to pop a card. So it's great in terms of getting the game started if you're in a situation where you just really need to start. Obviously it's not amazing, and I can see why people don't use it, but I just find it quite useful, and every time I've used it, it's essentially changed the game because you're interrupting your opponent's turn by a destruction, or if you really need to, draw a card. So then we've got the extra deck. So the extra deck consists of 3 Trouble Sunny. So in a normal game, if everything's going well, you could probably be for all 3 of these by the second turn. So say for example in your first turn, you'll get one of these out. Second turn, potentially, you'll drop this out to get the 2 Leela, the Leela and the Kill back out. That's 2, and then you'll then go back into another one after that. So potentially going through 3, which is why I use Pot of Avarice, because it puts these back in the deck and you reuse them as well. But these are so important. The fact that it's a 3300 beat stick, as you've probably seen in many videos before, is a game changer for this deck. I've used this deck with Evil Eye and with Unchained, but as a pure deck, far more consistent. And I've also used it with Outrage. This deck itself can be quite frustrating because it's a 1-card starter. And as I'll get into one of the next parts of my section is where I'll go into the weaknesses deck and how this card basically can get around that. But in particular, the non-targeting disruption by sending a card basically, rather than destroying it, means you can get around things like Shaddoll Winder, for example, which is ultimately a deck killer for this if you can't get around it. As with many decks in this meta, Then I run the 3 keys of kills. So, yeah, 3 keys of kills. Why I run 3 of these is in your first turn, you're either going to go into this. So if you're going first, you're going to end with this. So you're going to go into your Leela, then you're going to end with keys of kill, draw a card. But at no other point during the game can I think of many situations where you'll want to link into the Leela over the keys of kill. So you always want to use 3 of these. So to pop a card. So you'll link into this, get the Leela from your grave, pop card. So you should use 3 of these at all times. There's never a situation where I thought I can run with 2 because you're always using 3 of these. And especially in the grindy game, you're always going to pop cards more than you're going to draw. So this is always going to be the first one. So I'd always recommend that. However, I know there is debate about 2 or 3 of these, and you see many deck profiles that will say run 3. Other than the first turn, this won't be the first one then. You'll always want 1 in your grave. If 1's in your grave, you're going to bring it out, so you're never going to link into it. If that one gets removed by a call by the grave, you've always got a second one in there. And if you've run all of them, that's where my part of avarice comes in to put them back. I've never been in a situation where I thought I really have a third. Well, I have, but it's very rare. But I've always needed 3 keys of kills. So that's where I run 2, and space is there. So one of the cards which I'm going to go into, I could probably remove for it, but at the end of the day, it just gives, I find, works perfectly fine. Then this is the card which potentially could be a third Leela, which is Phoenix. So Phoenix basically I find is quite useful when you're in a bind and you just want to get round a card in someone's back row, which it happens with this deck, as I'll go into more detail. This gives you the option to do that in an easy to bring out monster. 1 Leela, 1 keys of kill, Nightmare Phoenix. Nice and easy. Then, as you've seen with the Scythe, there is a Dagda. So, Dagda, how does this work? So if I go back to my deck, so as I showed before, we got, for example, bring out a Leela, a keys of kill, sorry, which brings out a Leela. I then basically have the option of then going, am I going into my play? No, I've got a Frost or whatever in my hand, I'll go into Frost. This then goes into Dagda, which then obviously brings out Dagda. I then use Home, which is or Secret Password to bring out Home, which then allows me then to bring out another Live Twin monster, which then basically allows me to then get Scythe, which has happened previously. I then link off and then start my normal play. It is imperative that you remember, do not bring out one of the evil twins before you do this, because you are locked into Fiends, and this being the Fairy. So it is a situational one, but it's a situation where if you can play this, it can be game breaking, as everyone knows why it should have been banned. It wasn't banned, so we're going to play it. However, if you're then siding out later on and no one's using and you're playing that Eldritch, the Scythe is quite easy to come out, and obviously this is not the worst thing in the world because there's not really much I would put in here over this, for example. So that's why I use that. Then my beat sticks, access code talk. I mean, is there much to say about this? Your deck is full of link monsters which are going to be in the grave. You are going to have plenty to banish for its effect to destroy. And because the big one is level link 4, you're going to have a beefy, I don't know if that's the term, for access code to basically beat over anything you want and hopefully win you the game with the amount of destruction you'll have. The other one where I've faced many decks in the past formats where I would bring out Unchained Abomination. Some people don't think this is rate this. I personally find it quite useful, especially in the old format when it's hard in Imperial Order. Bring this out, destroys at the end of the turn, which can change the game. Or alternatively, you bring this out, run over a monster, and you then destroy two cards basically by the end of the phase, or multiple. It can change games depending on the situation you're in. It's not gonna change the world if you're using this against, say, like a Sword Soul, which negates everything. In those kind of situations, you're probably going to access code, I would think, but then you're negating. But 3,000 tap points as standard, plus the ability to destroy when something destroys in battle, and then at the end phase is amazing, especially as it happens during your opponent's turn as well as your turn as well, if I remember right, which I'm sure I am. So during the end phase you can target one, and on the field destroy it, so destruction in both turns. So if they can't get over this, they can't set like traps to be able to get around, which is great against decks like Outledge, where they might put a Sanguine down. You know what happens to them going the Conquistador rather than the Sanguine, for example. So that's for example. And then from the XZ side, I use the Cavalry, Cavalry I find is better than, for the life of me I can't remember the other one, but I've read over the other one and not being able to destroy by effects. I still prefer this, just because they're the 2000 beta which can't be destroyed by battle. Having that situation where I've regretted this, but the fact you have this is great. And if you're not using the material, you'll then get up to potentially with downwards have 4 material for Zeus. You'll have a 4 material Zeus which you can then play around. And because of the fact it's so easy to bring around, as I said before, 1 Leela or Kitty Kill into whatever it'll be. Level 2, nice and easy. You have got that pretty much with no work done. Just for 1 card. And that's the importance of this deck, is it's a 1 card starter deck. Which is one of the reasons that it's so important things like the crosshair to get around hand traps, because 1 Ash will ruin your day. And if you can't actually get around an Ash or an Imperm or a Veiler, you are pretty much in a lot of trouble. So that's the main deck and the extra deck. As I say, I'm going to just go to another section now, which after this transition. So now let's talk about some of the weaknesses of this deck. So generally, floodgates. Floodgates seem to kill this deck more than anything else. Not to say all these are ones you need to worry about, but specifically there can be only one. Goes and Match being ones that I faced. And then you got your likes of your Macrocosmos, because you need the graveyard. And Skill Drain being at 3 now completely ruins the play in terms of my special summon. The other ones, of course, Phoenix Enforcer. There's not really much you can do about this. It's just being able to find ways to combat it. And Kaiju's, well, I mean, I was with Trouble Sunny. I had that Kaiju a number of times, and again, there's nothing you really can do about that. So they're just ones to be aware of, just so you're aware. Obviously, stopping these coming out would be great. So this comes down to, what do I then do with my side deck, and what have I come to find? Well, the most important thing is lots and lots of trap destruction, trap and magic spell destruction. Sorry. Looking at obviously what you have in. Obviously, you don't need to have all these. These are just the options. But personally, I was running 1 Harps of Adesto, 2 Lightning Storms, and then 3 of this. So I had 6 of these in. There are a number of reasons for that. But I also was trying something out which worked quite well, because I played a few Outlandish players. I played Raw Decree. Not to say it's a great card. I'm not going to say it's going to win you any major events, but in my local meta, playing Raw Decree when someone's playing an Outlandish deck, unless they draw into an Outlandish monster, pretty much shuts down their deck. And any of these as well. So it allows you to get to these cards and not have to worry about what they're going to do with them. So I used 2 of these and actually used quite a few times to go for game. So that's always the option. And of course, when you've got those boards where you don't know what you're going to do about, you've got your 2 Raigekis, Evenly Match or an option, Torrential Tribute, because of the fact that when you summon one of your live twins, you can then play Torrential Tribute. Torrential Tribute takes effect, you summon your other live twin, you still got some kind of play to go ahead with. And then things like Dimensional Barrier for anything that's Synchro Exceed based, like Sword Soul, for example. Solemn Judgment, I've had this since 2003, and I've only used it in my deck maybe a handful of times. But this does come in some use. I've not actually put it in here, but again, it's something to consider. And then for the deck itself, I mean, some people use Parallel Exceed. I personally don't see the benefit of this, but there again, I'm not using Exceed monsters which benefit from this. But I can see the benefit of, so it's always something to consider. And as I was saying about with changing over my Ash, putting in draw, because at the moment in time, most decks draw a ton of cards. So I'm thinking your PK decks. I'm thinking Sword Soul does it as well. I think off the top of my head, I might be wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong. But obviously, any decks which do a lot of drawing a lot of birds, stops them. And then just for your normal, your Lava Golem, your Wingdragon Ra, and then you can also benefit from the Kaijus as well, which over here. So you've got your Kaijus as well, which obviously will help you with flays. So generally what I'd say is the main issue with this deck is the ability to deal with back row, because at the end of the day, we might build at least. It's very minimal on the amount of spell and trap destruction. I have put harpies in there previously, but I decided to take it out. But I mean, there is the option for that. But I find that's going to be the main issue with this deck. At the end of the day, if you can't start your plays because you're being negated, or you've got a floodgate that's stopping you from doing that, your deck doesn't have any backup plan. So if you're going to get one monster out, you can't go into your limp plays. And another one here, like summon limits, for example, and window, they're also big issues for that. So it's just having to get around that. So just be aware that if you are playing this deck, you need to have some kind of out for that. So spell and trap destruction, and then getting rid of the tricky monster cards which are negating you with likes of the Kaijus, Lava Golem. But then obviously you lose your normal sun. So then you're relying on your home, which is why running 2 of them is so important. Well, thanks guys, so that was just my deck profile for my Live Twin Evil Twin deck. So hopefully if you enjoyed it, drop a like, subscribe, and we'll be putting more videos up, and let us know if this is the kind of format of a video you enjoy. Right, thanks guys, busy later, bye.